Well, we are well into the final third of the cigar, and that bitter flavor is lingering. It really is. It has subsided a little bit, but it is lingering. Cigar blew up a little bit, probably from the cold and the wrapper damage, a combination of the cold and the wrapper damage, but. Still getting a nice draw. Bitterness has subsided. Fortunately, there was one point there where it was just really bad. I'm just gonna burn this off a little bit because it's a fucking mess here. It's a bit of a mess on that side. Overall, the cigar's been good. It's a cigar that I think is definitely going to do well as it ages a little longer. It's not a sweet cigar by any means. It's not an aromatic cigar. It's really a cigar man's cigar. It's just that kind of cigar. It has that flavor, that overall just cigar flavor. If that makes any sense to you, it's very vegetative. It has a few changes, spicy on the light, very spicy on the light, evens out, and pretty much no spice throughout until the very end here where there's a little bit picking back up. That's the case many a time. The burn was very good, a few little touch-ups, and just this little explosion at the end, but I really don't think that's the fault of the cigar at all. It's the combination of the cold and the wrapper damage that had occurred over toward the top. There was some damage under the ring when I removed the original edition ring. The aroma has been enjoyable for me. However, everybody else in the building is complaining, so this is not a very pleasant smelling cigar as far as floral aromatic aromas go. Like I said, I noticed that it has this very musky scent to it. I like it, and it's a great undertone while you're smoking the cigar, but it probably stinks to other people. Good roll, good draw, getting a nice tight pull right now from the end of the cigar. Even in this condition, it's giving me a very good draw. And it's pretty much at the end right here, just straight vegetative flavor with some earthiness, very little spice. But the good thing is it's not bitter anymore, and it's not muddy at all. There are no flavors that are all running together. It's not overpowering by any means. It's a gentle cigar. I would call it mild to medium. Very mild at the beginning, and then pretty much after the first third, it's a straight medium all the way through. It's picking up a little bit at the end, but not much. It's not giving like a big kick at the end or anything like that. It stays pretty medium. Good. Yeah, that bitterness went away. Kind of like a weedy, potato-ish almost kind of note, if that makes any sense. But very vegetative, and when I say vegetative, I don't mean green. I mean like good, like vegetable type flavors. When it's green, I'll say green. When I mean that it's fresh, young, grassy, that's that. Vegetative is good. Vegetative is a deep quality, a deep tobacco quality. And that's pretty much the base throughout this entire cigar. I would call it a pretty vegetative cigar. Getting some nice whiffs of aroma. But, nothing that blows me away like some of the other smokes, like the D4. That aroma was just fantastic. So, our first third was very nice. The center of the cigar, the second third, was not so great. It started out grassy, and then right after what I thought was going to be some nice coffee notes, bang, it got very bitter. But as soon as it got into the last third, it picked up and tastes very, very good again. So I think whatever this blend is trying to do as far as changes go, the center is what needs to mature the most. So in the jar for another year, year and a half, perhaps those bitter notes will subside. If they subside and turn into nothing and just go away, I think that it'll be a pretty bland center of a cigar, pretty bland second, you know. But if they mature into what I thought I sensed was some kind of coffee note there, it might be a very interesting cigar. So here's a case of something that you really don't know what you're going to get. You can only hope for the best. I think this cigar will be a really great smoke if you get those coffee type flavors in the middle to kind of, you know, really break things up, because that's a big change going from where it went. It was like very vegetative, and then all of a sudden it got into this very kind of almost like a Monty 2 coffee bean mode. But no, that wasn't the case. It just got very bitter. So a lot of extra salt here at the end, very salty, and that's about it. So I'm gonna, you know, puff away on this third here, and we'll do our little overall rating and our little shot of the ashtray. Unfortunately, as far as people who like to see all the ash in the tray with the cigar, I lost a lot of the ash on the floor. It was a very crumbly cigar, probably because of the beetles going through it. But to tell you the truth, here's the deal. If you see your cigars ransacked by beetles, you know, try to save what you can, because this cigar was 100% smokable. 100% smokable. And for people going, oh man, but you're smoking and there's beetles in there and there's eggs in there and stuff, let me tell you something. Just about any Cuban cigar, a lot of Cuban cigars, if you smoke a lot of Cuban cigars, you've been smoking plenty of eggs, my friend. And if you have cigars that, you know, you freeze because you fear that there's eggs in there and whatever, and then you're going to smoke them, you're still smoking the eggs. They've just been frozen. You know, so it's something you can't avoid. You know, we're not talking about some disgusting cockroach laying, you know, it's a tiny little mite. You can hardly see the thing. You know, you're not going to taste them unless there's like a billion of them in there. But judging from the damage that was done and the overall time frame that the jar was, you know, not last opened, man, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like one beetle who did that. You know, it really wasn't. I mean, I've seen boxes of cigars that have been just destroyed. I mean, it looks like they built a network of highways across the entire top of the box, and then as soon as you start picking cigars up, things start crumbling and falling apart. I mean, just absolutely destroyed. So that's like an infestation. This was just one angry, you know, maybe two angry little beetles having a fist fight in my jar. It's unfortunate. A few cigars were ruined. A few are, you know, and then there are those that only have damage like this. But like this, they are worthless as far as, you know, a collectible for down the line, you know, because nobody wants to buy stuff like that. And therefore, they have to be removed and just enjoyed, smoked, and I'm going to still freeze them and age them and see what I could do with them. The other ones that had no damage at all, I'm still going to freeze them and then put them back in the jar. And hopefully, at some point, I can replace what's missing. Like I said, if anybody has any information out there on, you know, where I can get a few of these guys, I'd be very, very obliged to, you know, help you out in some similar way. As far as our review goes, I'm sorry I wasn't in a, you know, much better mood tonight, but I'm sure anyone can understand. A little bit of spice. I'm on like under the last inch, and it's pretty, you know, not strong, but pretty deep now, pretty deep. Almost getting a little teeny bitter again, but yeah. I have a feeling that these bitter notes are trying to become like what we recognize very much a lot of the time as being a coffee cut type flavor. Because coffee has a bitterness to it, but done right, it's overridden. It's almost like the same thing I was saying about that D4. That tobacco was so salty that if that sour citrusy note wasn't there to kind of mingle with it, it would have just been like almost, it'd been like, you know, bleh, like a lot of just salt. But with that other note, beautiful. Reminds me of a time that, you know, we did like a taste testing and they had different cigars that, this was Davidoff I think, and they had like a Grand Cru, and then they had 3 cigars made up only of each tobacco the Grand Cru is made up of. Like one the filler and one the wrapper and then like, you know, one part of the filler. Anyway, every cigar was just awful until you got to the one that combined all of the tobaccos, which was the Grand Cru number 2, which by the way is another one of my favorite little non-Cuban cigars that are just beautiful. Real shame that Davidoff went non-Cuban, really, right? Real shame there. I just wish they would. Maybe they'll make a comeback one day. Maybe once Cuban cigars go legal or something. I don't know. Talk about your collectibles. Yeah, so talk about your collectibles, man. Saw a little pack. I think it was what are those things called? Ambadris, something like that. Bassadris, little Panatella, little 5-pack, something for like $500. Unfucking real, man. I know a guy who bought a box of 1980 something, forget the exact date, Davidoff Don Perignon for $20-something thousand. No fucking joke. This guy had money, man. Guy had money. 20-something grand. Box of 1980-something Don Perignon. Davidoff. One of the ultimate collectible cigars, you know? It's another thing we should all talk about is Davidoff's cigar. I started collecting when Davidoff's, I always kill myself, but how was I to know? I started collecting when Davidoff cigars, they were gone, they hadn't made it. They still had like certain Davidoff products, not boxes or anything like that, but there was a site, they had the anniversary #1, those big wooden tubes with the Cuban Davidoff in it. I would be afraid to buy that anyway, thinking that maybe they just slipped the band on a, you know, Dominican ad. I wouldn't have known back then. I was a beginner. I couldn't know, you know. But unfortunately, once I really getting into buying and collecting, everything was gone. Another one, they had a ton of Gloria Cubana Tainos, Gloria Cubana Metal de Oro #2s from '97, '98. I guess I had just started collecting and buying and smoking Cuban cigars at the cusp of before everybody really got into this and everybody started finding out about it and buying online, you know. Vendors still had a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff. Everybody had vintage sections, and people with vintage sections had great boxes. Now you go to a vintage section, what they call a vintage section, they have cigars that are like 4 years old, 5 years old, and then they have 800 boxes from like, you know, 2000, 2001, which, you know, that's stupid. They should even say, like, these might not be good cigars, you know. They put them on there hoping that some newbie comes along and goes like, oh man, fucking, you know, 14-year-old cigars. They price them as if they were worth being 14 years old, you know. I mean, they're from 2000. They may very well suck, you know. I would still chance a box of 2000, like, you know, Metal de Oros, because it's a small production brand, you know. I would never buy anything global from there, like Monte Cristos or Partagas or anything that was global. But anything that was like, you know, local, like Gloria Cubana or maybe Ramon Alones or you know, El Rey de Mundo or stuff like that, that I would consider. But you can't. They don't have that either. All they have is like all that global shit from 2000, 2001. That's why it's still there. If you don't know. Bad years. Well, I'm gonna nub this just a tiny bit. And you know what I said? Like, I'm into my last inch. This is actually the inch before the last, because my nub is over here. I had to cut it off. I'll show you. It's about an inch of the cigar. Nothing much really, but sometimes the last inch is the best part. It's got all those oils and resins and stuff in there. I'm gonna just use the torch here. Press for time and Nothing so fancy that. Nothing so fancy you can't handle it. Well, this cigar had its problems and its weak points, but it's obviously decent enough to smoke because I'm doing this. So, you know, if it was that bad, I would have just went like that and game over. But I could use a couple of last little punches. Oof, very musky, very musky, very musky. It's almost like, now it's like very musky with hints of floral. It's not very floral, it's just musky. See, unlike the D4, even the D4 started out, you know, like more dryish, but that cigar, like, it caramelized all the way through. It just got thicker and thicker. It smoke, everything, and this didn't do that at all. It, I think definitely more vintage cigars do that more because of all the stuff built up in the, you know, the leaves, the oils being released and drying, released and drying, released and drying, forming these resins and crystals. You get a much thicker, denser smoke. This is a very, very airy smoke throughout. Not much creaminess, not any creaminess to it at all. It's a little thicker now than it started, but I wouldn't call it creamy. You know, it's very, very airy. That's it. Once I feel a little burn on my lip, that's really it, because I don't want to, you know, ruin my lip on this cigar and not be able to smoke all week because I got a fucking blister. That's it, my friends. And that is all she wrote, my friends. Overall, an enjoyable cigar, especially pending the circumstances, but it could use more time. I have nothing much else to really say right now. Our rating, 6.75. Decent cigar, needs some work, you know, and that is that. Over on the left, you'll see my well, it's 3 cuts. The cap is popping off, but I made 3 cuts deeper and deeper until I got past that little channel, that crack, where I could finally get a good draw, which is no fault of the construction or anything of the cigar. It's just because of that damn beetle. And, you know, that's about it. I gotta say, I did enjoy certain parts of the cigar. I thought the first third was very, very, very good. I did not enjoy the second third at all, and you know, a little bit, but once it started getting toward the middle of the second third, not at all. And then the last third, it picked back up a little bit and gave me some hope for the future of this cigar. So if you do have these, I would definitely sit on them. I wouldn't smoke them just yet. This can be a fantastic cigar in a year and a half, maybe 2 more years. And who knows what it would be like in 7. Maybe a real gem. Well, thanks for watching. This is another Dr. Joe review, number 4 of our 365. I will see you tomorrow. Non-Cuban day tomorrow. And I do not have any idea what we're going to smoke. I have too much on my mind right now. We'll figure it out later. Peace out. Have a good night. Keep on smoking.